this was always said in the military. What happens or fails to happen in your unit is your responsibility. And like, this is an awesome responsibility. And it's a two-edged sword. So the man next to me in this picture is Sergeant Sean Willis. He was my first platoon sergeant. So he's the guy who took me right out of school and like taught me how to do my job. And this guy was awesome. He was the best of the best. And so when like platoon leader grades came out, I got A's. And like, really all I did was hang out with Willis, learn from him, work out with him. He's like, oh great, another second lieutenant. I got to deal with another dumb, smart kid. And then like after 2 weeks, he gave me the greatest compliment. He's like, you're a dumb, smart kid, but I've seen much dumber, smarter kids than you. The dude was absolutely hilarious. So he's like, Jimmy, we need to make sure your mama knows that you're good back home. I'm like, Mom, don't worry about me. It's still safer than Michael Jackson's house here. This slide's completely irrelevant, but it's the end of the day, and I figured we need a laugh. The privilege, the honor we have is this awesome responsibility we have to be leaders. Like, I love it. I hate my business some days, but I love my business because it's the crucible that makes me a better person. Seeing all the gaps and seeing I have the ability to fix the problem, to solve the problem, to get better. It's truly an awesome privilege and responsibility you guys are walking into. This is like my favorite concept in the military. It's my favorite concept of being a business owner. It's my favorite concept, really, of being an American. And so the story in the book is he's training platoon leaders on where to stand when you clear a room. When you clear a room, the command and control element obviously can't be the guy breaking through the door. And when I was a platoon leader, like, I struggled with it because I was fresh from playing football. Like, I was a big dude, like physically, and I could crush that door, and I wanted to crush that door. One time I led the element, and Sergeant Willis was like, grabs me by my collar, like, what in the hell are you doing? I'm like, I'm gonna blow open that door, Sergeant. He's like, damn it, you're the platoon leader. Like, you can't be doing this. And so, like, I tend to love to jump into things, and that in the beginning did not necessarily make me a leader, a good leader. And so, because I was like, I'm a leader, I lead from the front. I'm gonna bust open doors. And like in the book with Jocko, it's like, hey, a great leader can't be doing that because you're gonna get wrapped up in the minutia. Maybe a business application is like, I'm such a hard worker, I'm gonna be my own assistant, like what Steve was talking about. I'm gonna schedule all my appointments, I'm gonna take all my phone calls. And so what Jocko said is, hey, the good leaders need to be in the middle. You don't wanna be too far back that you don't know what's going on, but you can't get caught in the minutia of the moment. And so, like, this is why I love decentralized command. So who here has seen the 300, this movie? Somebody give me their main takeaway from the 300 other than try to get as ripped as possible. Early in the movie, King Leonidas, he says something phenomenal that has always stuck with me. They're trying to get him to pay homage to the Persian king. And Xerxes, and they're like, no, we're gonna fight. And Xerxes like, we're gonna crush you. And he's like, no. A free human being fighting for his own land in his own territory will always beat an army of conscripts. Somebody who's just there because they're getting a paycheck. He's like, hands down, we will win because of this. And anybody else love that concept? I love it. It's like, and then you got these badasses at Lexington and Concord, a bunch of farmers in the Revolutionary War going up against the greatest army on earth. They won because it was their farms. It was their territory. Everybody know what the Battle of D-Day was? How we started to throw the Nazis out of Europe. This was decentralized command. So if you remember Band of Brothers, it was all about small unit tactics, small leaders. So the slide on the left is a bunch of Rangers scaling a hill led by their junior leaders, their lieutenants and captains. Part of the reason we won that war is because there was not decentralized command in the Nazi army. So the guy on the right is General Rommel. So on D-Day, the Germans were like 4 hours late to the fight because Rommel was out with his wife and nobody wanted to make a decision. Who here in their businesses gets a little frustrated, like, why can't anybody here make a decision? Why's all the decisions got to come through me? Anybody ever have that? It's because you're not practicing decentralized command. So nobody on D-Day would make a move because they hadn't got a command from Rommel, who was out with his wife on vacation. So you might be thinking right now, well, thanks for the military history lesson, Jimmy, but I'm a real estate investor. Well, you're welcome for the the history lesson, but this does apply to real estate. Have you guys ever asked yourself, who do you want to lead? Do you want to lead an army like Xerxes, a bunch of conscripts being there? Because if they're not there, he was going to kill their wife and family. Or do you guys want to lead a bunch of robots? Anybody just want a bunch of robots who's going to do whatever I say? Then my world will be so easy. I know that's gone through everybody's head. But deep down, we don't want to lead people like that. We want to lead a bunch of badasses, like the Spartans and the Rangers at Point du Hoc. And then a more important question is like, what type of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be a tyrant like King George, where nobody can stand to be around you, or some weird, creepy guy like Xerxes here? I don't want to be that. I want to be like Leonidas. I want to be like George Washington. I want to lead a bunch of people defending their own land and what is theirs so that they can be free as well. That's who I want to lead. So how do you do it? Like, it's not easy. It's very, very hard to practice decentralized command, to get people on your team to take ownership. But it can be done. And so the way you do it is through decentralized command. And now, when I first heard about this concept, decentralized command, and this is where I struggled as a business owner, because I was not able to go from the military to the corporate world to the business owner world and pull all the good stuff from the military. I just wasn't able to do it. My ideal business was this, is that I'd have a business that operated like the Rangers. We operated on commander's intent, and we operated on a mission statement. And we could do a lot of good things on just that. I was like, oh, that's the kind of business I want. And so I'm just going to decentralize control. But what I was really doing was lazy delegation. I was like, I get to hire somebody to do everything I hate doing, and we'll call them the integrator? Like, this will be awesome. And then I was like, poof, I was like the road runner. Oh, there's a problem in my business? No worries, I got an integrator. I'm gonna be lifting weights and wakeboarding and doing stuff I wanna do because I'm the visionary. And so what I'm saying is, when you read these books, they're awesome, but there's a very fine distinction that you have to practice the golden rule of leadership before you let go. Because even who, not how, like, they don't talk about the downside of lazy delegation. So I lived that dream of the Roadrunner in Vreeland Capital 1.0. It was like, so when I first started flipping, flips 0 to 30 were awesome because I was running on pure adrenaline, no systems, no process, no team. And then we get to 30 and everybody at CG is like, you need to get an integrator, you need to get a team behind you. And it was, flips 30 through 70 was the worst time of my life. Like, I would have preferred to go back to Afghanistan. Here was the mistake I was making, is I was mistaking the golden rule of leadership with the golden rule in life. And so the golden rule of life is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I thought I should lead people the way I wanted to be led. And I hated being micromanaged because I went to a micromanaging university for college. And I could not stand all the shoe shining. I could not stand all of it. But it was like, now that I'm 40, I see the logic of why they did it. I was an 18-year-old turd who didn't know anything. And so I had to be micromanaged. But then we got to the Rangers and the Special Forces. It was awesome. It was a high-functioning team. They'd give us a target, they'd give us a mission, and we had a planning process, so we'd rip through that, and then boom. Like, it was, and then we'd go on the mission, hit the target. It was awesome. It was an incredible experience. And so what I didn't understand, that there was a spectrum of leadership between control-centric and empowerment-centric leadership. So, like, I'm assuming in this room, on the younger side, on that more entrepreneurial side, you guys are going to skew to empowerment-centric because you guys are more visionary, you're idealistic. Where's the most control-centric leadership in our society? Maximum security prison. Any ideas on why that is? You could make an argument that these are the lowest functioning human beings in the society. Now, empowerment-centric leadership or decentralized command, like, you find that in special operations units, and the reason they can work on decentralized command is because they're highly functioning teams, highly functioning individuals. Could you have empowerment-centric leadership in a prison? It would be chaos. And you can't have control-centric leadership in a highly functioning team because there will be a rebellion. What it comes down to is you guys learn to delegate, as you guys hire your first integrators, your employees, is there's this spectrum between a low-functioning team and a high-functioning team. When you have a low-functioning team, You got to get in there and you got to grab the reins and you got to micromanage a little bit, leading, teaching, training. Like you got to be there to coach. You can't just let, like what I would do is I would hire somebody, here's your job description. Maybe I'd give you some KPIs, but go, like I'm the visionary. You see this idea, you go do this. And like no feedback mechanism, like it was bad, it was painful. And then I had this nagging belief in my mind that like, no, even low functioning teams enjoy empowerment-centric leadership. They want to function that way, and that's not true too. Like low functioning, if you have any doubts, like that, hey, I don't want to be like that to a low functioning team, like they don't enjoy empowerment-centric leadership. You're constantly on a dial between, is my team low functioning and high functioning team? And if it's a low functioning team, it is your fault, and you need to institute some more control-centric leadership. And then once your team is crushing and it's empowerment-centric leadership, then you can do empowerment-centric leadership. You can pull off the reins a little bit, but please don't make the same mistake I do, where you were the road runner. So here's an example. Construction last year, I had learned enough that I was not going to make this mistake again, but I hired a new leader. He was the right person, but he was inexperienced. Jobs were going long. There were labor overrides, and the old me would have been like, this son of a bitch, like, oh, it's his fault, I gotta fire him, yada, yada, yada. But it was my fault. He wasn't properly trained right. He needed more time. He needed more attention from me and my coordination of action officer. So once I dive in, I have a ton of fun with it. Like we broke things down to the basics. We gave him a daily routine. We gave him personal coaching. We gave him after action reviews every time we had an adverse event, and we gave him that rapid feedback mechanism. And then back to this dial, he started functioning higher and higher and higher, and we were able to allow for more empowerment-centric leadership. Another example is Bobby in the back of the room. Like we implemented Salesforce last fall. And so Bobby comes to me, he's like, hey, Jimmy, I want to take on this target. I want to take on this challenge, but it's gonna remove my capacity to go on appointments. And I was like, no problem, dude. I'll jump back in, go do appointments. Where, a lot of people would be like, what? I'm the visionary. I'm not going on appointments. I'm not doing that. But I think if you have team members who know that if they want to go build something, that you'll jump in and support them, that will go a long way. So like, one of my favorite things with this business is living on that dial. Like, do I need to be jumping in here? Do I not need to be jumping in here? And then me personally, when we start a new initiative, that's where I like to jump in, do it for 90 to 180 days, and jump out. And so now, like, Bobby's in empowerment-centric leadership. We do a check-in on Monday. Then we do our L10 with the leadership team. And then Friday, we do a weekly accountability meeting. And like, my job really is to sit on the meeting and kind of crack jokes. And like, I love it. It's a ton of fun. Like you can get to where traction says, where you are in the visionary thing, or the visionary part. So what I want you guys to take from this is you got to earn the right. I had to earn the right to have decentralized command, to take the time to empower your subordinates so that they become leaders too. Like what Ren was talking, leading up and leading down. And I personally think there's nothing more fun than when your subordinate leaders become leaders themselves. You're building a team together and hitting projects together.